Hey Chris, wanted to shoot a video for you about the trailer. So starting at the very tip, hitch ball. You're going to be a 2 5/16 hitch ball. You're going to want to be right about 17 to 19 inches from the ground to the top of the hitch ball for the trailer to ride level. You really want these riding level because it distributes the weight over both the axles evenly. It rides really nice with the torsion axles anyway, but it just looks better when they're level. So everything else here, I'm sure you've hooked up a trailer before. Just keep in mind you have to have the electronic brake controller in your truck if you don't already have it to control the brakes. If you don't know about that, just ask me. I can bring you up to speed on how to take care of that. So working back, going in here with the latch. Start with the latch. This is the latch lock. This locks the latch itself. This is the deadbolt right here, and that runs a deadbolt through, and then it's super secure. And we've done the cam lock, which you can put on and put a padlock in, so this trailer is very secure. Coming into the front, we've got the spot free system. The way that the spot free system works is, here's your filler hose right here. So when you go to make spot free water, you'll connect your garden hose right on here. This is just a cap that comes off. The water runs through here. This is your softener, the first one. This is just recharges with salt. And the other three are the deionizers, and those recharge with resin. And when we get to that point, you've got about 2,500 gallons before you even need to start thinking about that. They just come straight out. You rinse them and recharge them with resin, and I'll walk you through that when we get to that point. But basically the water runs through the softener, then through the deionizers, and then it runs down that hose, runs all the way to right here to the second tank, and it fills up your front tank with spot-free water. And the second tank back is your tap water tank. The way that you switch back and forth between them is right here in the valving. And I talked to you yesterday. Originally I had the valves over there, and what was not good about that is you'd have to step into and out of the trailer every single time you wanted to switch back and forth between the two. So I changed it so that it's right here. You just stand right here, switch back and forth between tap water and spot free. So as you see right now, it's on tap water because you just follow the hose. That one goes to the second tank, and then this one goes over to the front tank. The smaller valve, it's the 3/4 valve, that is just the drain for your spot free tank if you needed to drain it. So that's all pretty easy to run through, and again, it's right here. It's easy to do. You can do it on the fly. Switch back and forth between your tap and your spot-free water. Moving backwards here, we've got your air compressor, dual piston, so it makes air quickly. It's a 20-gallon tank, and what's nice is it has whisper technology, or silent air technology they call it. It's real quiet. Usually when air compressors go on, they're super loud. Something that's nice about this compressor is you can see the red line coming out of that. That's going back to your hose reel back there. But there's also a second tap right here. So let's say you're working on a car on the side here. You could just get one of those coiled hoses, pop it in right there, and tap into the air that way too, and instead of having to unwind your reel in the back and do all that stuff. There's the switch for it. There's the valve to control how much pressure is in it. It pumps up to about 100 psi and stops and holds there. So, and there's the trick little mount system I made for it, and it's real solid. It's real solid on there. There's a valve at the back of the tank. When the compressor fills up with water, you're going to want to drain that every once in a while, probably every 6 months, and you can just undo these two crosswise bolts right up there and take the whole thing out. So working back, now we get to the actual heart of the unit, the pressure wash unit. Diesel goes right here, gas goes right here. You do not ever want to mix those up for obvious reasons. 12 gallons capacity on each one of them, so that runs quite a long time before you have to even fill them up. That's one of the benefits of this style machine. To operate it, it's pretty simple. Just choke right here, key right here, and then you can adjust the throttle here, which is nice. It'll adjust your output at the back of the unit. You probably, for the most part, will be running at maybe mid throttle. This machine's got a lot of power, so that's something for you to play with and determine what you like best as far as that goes. As far as turning the burner on, if you don't have the burner switch on, obviously it's running as a cold water machine. when it's running, you just hit the switch and that'll turn on your burner, and then you can dial in how much heat you want. These are the 8 gallon a minute tips. So if you're running single line, you can use those tips and put out 8 gallons a minute. You can also run single line with a 4 gallon a minute tip, and it'll run at 4 gallons a minute. And that's how you run the dual line system. When you're using 2 guns, you'd put the 4 gallon a minute tips in, which the guns will come with. They'll already have the 4 gallon a minute tips in them. If you need to switch to an 8 gallon a minute tip, just swap one of those out with one of these. These are the 8s, and they're easy to tell because they have markings right here. See this one, 85, that means it's 8.5 gallon a minute tip, but it's the same, 8 or 8.5 or 8. They're the same on a machine this big. This is your soap nozzle. It's kind of, I don't think you'll ever use that because I've got the dual line, the dual lance guns for yours, and that's how you operate the low pressure injectors. We'll get to the low pressure injectors at the back. Try to remember to always keep this turned off, because I think if you leave it on, I think it might drain the battery. So if it's off, you're not running hot, just make sure you turn it off. Battery's right here. If it ever goes down for any reason, you can just hook up a charger to it. It's just a conventional car battery. Obviously this is your burner. I put a diverter on it right here. Usually this exhausts straight up, but I put this diverter on it so that it'll kind of go out this way towards the door. And again, it's kind of nice how this worked out. I flipped this around. This was pointing up. I flipped it around so that it exhausts straight out the door too, which is good. So when you're running this thing, good idea to have the roof vent open. Obviously have the side door open so that everything can escape. Going down the sides of the trailer, not much of a big deal here. It's just basically hoses. I wrapped these in foam because they will get hot. Not really hot, but it cost me $6 worth of foam. I think it looks a little better, and it'll save a little bit of heat lost through those hoses. The red line is your air compressor line running back that way. You see the second tank. Obviously this extension cord you see right here is going to be gone. That was just for testing. Second tank's your tap tank. Let's head to the back of the trailer here. I really love how it came out with, this is your design with the flat fenders, not the diamond plate fenders, and the wheels. I think it's just a great look. So coming to the back of the trailer, this is where it really gets to be business back here, but you can see how I've got it set up. So what I do, not a lot of people do this. I do it. I just think it makes sense. I put these very expensive high pressure valves on here so that if you want to kill the pressure to one of the reels, maybe change a gun or something, you can just do it right back here with these. So obviously that's off, that's on. I did these on both sides, and you can see I also did the injectors right here, the chemical injectors. Now, the chemical injectors, the way I set it up, these are 5 gallon a minute chemical injectors, 3 to 5 gallon a minute. So they are going to be great for doing dual line, because I don't think they will work when you're running a single 8 gallon a minute, because they're not rated for that. But 8 gallon a minute, you're probably not going to be using chemical injection anyway. The low pressure ones, you're going to be using the X-Jet, which connects to the end of the pressure wash gun. And 8 gallon a minute, you'll probably be using, doing big rigs, you'll probably be using the foamers, which connect to the end of the pressure wash gun. I don't think you'd be using 8 gallon a minute on soft wash. So again, I think this is going to be the perfect setup for you for injecting chemical, is when you're doing it with dual line. And again, that's your low pressure injection. Might be something where you wanted to inject soap on a car for a car wash. You wouldn't be running 8 gallons a minute. You'd be running 3 to 4 gallons a minute. And again, in that situation, you'd probably be using the foamers anyway, and we'll get into the foamers. I'll talk to you about those. If you haven't seen those yet, those are tremendous. But again, just keep in mind, dual line, 4 gallon a minute. Doesn't have to be dual line. Just know if you want to use one of the injectors on one line, just put your 4 gallon a minute tip in. So I know this is all confusing. It's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but you're going to have me to call and talk to about all this stuff. But anyway, going back to it. So you got your dual high pressure hose reels here. They lock. Not really so much of a big deal on an enclosed trailer, but pretty important on an open trailer. But that's how you lock them. You just turn them 90 degrees and then they're free. You'll have two other, remember you got extra hoses, so we'll have two of the additional hundreds on quick connects when you need them. Most of the time you're probably going to be fine with 100 feet, but you'll have the quick connects on the other hundreds if you need 200 feet, and those will be in the trailer when you get it. Self-rewind reel, had to do a self-rewind reel because it was so busy back here with reels, just getting the spacing right, you know, having enough room to crank. You know, this is crank this one on this side, crank this one on that side. If we went with a hand crank reel on this, it would have widened everything, and then we would have started getting into accessibility issues here for your rack. And keep in mind, you get another rack. There's going to be another rack that goes right there. Hoping it shows up today before this thing ships, and I can bolt it in real quick. But if not, I'm just going to send it to you. The way that I do it, I just run self tappings straight into the the cross member that goes up, and you can kind of see how this is. These are the cross members in the sides. God, my hands are beat up. The cross members for the sides are kind of like a U shape, and they have wings that come out, and you just tap right into those. So you can kind of use those as a guide if you have to install this, and just drill your holes. Just drill a small hole at the start. So basically you'll be doing that over here on this side, and then just follow these two, follow them down, drill your holes, and tap into that. Put a little silicone along the back of the thing. I'll walk you through that. If you get it and you have to install it, I'll kind of run you through that. Let's see what else. So we've got the fill hose reel. I put a 50 on there. It looks like it'd probably take another 50. I'm thinking 50 for a fill hose is fine. But if you did get into a situation where you were constantly having to use more fill hose than 50 feet, that reel will fit another hose. In fact, that reel was kind of a mistake. It was supposed to be one of these that have the fittings for fill hose. They sent me the big one, which kind of made it tougher on me to have to figure out how everything works. But it's nice because if you did want to put another 50 on it, it'll hold it. That's just kind of one of those things you'll have to see if you use it. I see I have to attach this to the hose. I'll do that right after I'm done with this video. Battery right here for your generator. Here's your gen. I had it converted to electric start. There's a power lead that goes to the battery. When the engine is running, it will charge that battery, and that battery obviously powers your electric start. Pretty simple to start, and something to keep in mind, because this is an electric start conversion, you have to have the key on and that switch on, and then you turn it, it'll fire up, and then when it's running, you turn the key off, but it's going to keep running, and you have to kill it with that switch. Kind of funky, but let me tell you, the way this generator, the way that we build these, you get a lot of watts in a small amount of space. If you've seen how big 5,000 watt generators are, it would take up pretty much this whole thing back here. So we build this, and these engines, the taper engine in electric start, they're starting, everybody's discontinuing making them. You can still get some in pull start, but the electric starts are extinct. So that's why I had to have this one converted to electric start. And then let's see what else. Other than that, 87 octane fuel and everything is fine for these. This is your reclaim tank back here. So way this works is when you need to use your reclaim tank, you're going to have 100 feet of reclaim hose. Screws in right here. Your reclaim hose will go out to your reclaim pump, and then there'll be berms that are set around your reclaim pump where the water is draining to, and the berms will be in a box when you get everything. They have to be filled with sand, just any kind of sand. You can fill them up. They stretch out kind of far. I didn't want to fill them and then have to, you know, I've got a lot of stuff to send with this trailer, so I thought it'd just be better to send them to you in the box, and then you can deal with filling them up with sand. As far as the drain for it, I got to put the hose on it real quick, but this is a drain. This right here, this is a drain for the second tank, your tap water tank. There'll be another hose that comes off that nipple right there, and that's going to run to a valve also, and that'll be your drain for the reclaim tank. I've got it set up so that this thing will balance really well, even with the reclaim tank full of water, it's going to be counteracted by the weight that we've got in the front. So don't worry about, you know, filling it up or having to drain it all the time. You can pretty much fill it up full. I made some real strong brackets. You can see it's kind of an odd shape, the reclaim tank, and I'm really glad I ordered that because we would have been out of space otherwise. And then I made these steel brackets, so it's very, very stout, and then it's got some anti-slide foot plates on the side of it. So anyway, that's really about all I can think of at this point. Your fill hose, keep in mind your fill hose, when you connect this and you turn it on, the hose runs and fills up your second tank, your tap water tank. You'll notice that there's valves. See the valve on that front tank? There's valves on both sides of the tank. Very important that those stay closed when you have tap water and spot-free water. There's going to be situations maybe where you need 400 gallons of tap water, and you know, you wouldn't necessarily need to drain the spot-free water, but just know if you throw those valves, you're connecting the tanks and it's going to spoil whatever spot-free water you've got in the front. So just keep that in mind. You might get a job, you need 400 gallons of tap water. When you go back to needing spot-free, you're going to have to close those valves and then fill that front tank back up with spot-free water. So anyway, like I said, that's about all I can think of right now. This has roof lights in it, pretty bright. The switch is right over there, just inside the door, and it's got the roof vent. Anyway, check out this video, and then I will talk to you real soon. Take care. Hey, one other thing I wanted to mention: the plugs for the generator. They're right back here on the back side. It's a little bit tight, but there's two 110s back there, and you just kind of have to do it by feeling. It's not really that difficult. Originally, I was going to have the engine turned 90 degrees so that it was running crosswise here, but that design just didn't make any sense. This way that I've got it designed now is much better. Everything works in harmony. So, all right, talk to you later.